Welcome back to the Sports Complex on a Friday afternoon. It's a fun Friday show. Always having fun on a Friday afternoon. Getting ready for a big playoff weekend. The news has been fast and furious all week long. We'll get into the head coaching carousel in college and pro and all of that. Alabama has their coach and Texas is not losing theirs. We'll get into that. Some NFL talk as well as we get to the playoffs. Some NBA talk and some college basketball. Texas takes on their next Big 12 opponent on Saturday. We'll get into all of that and much more, including your text messages, 512-447-3776, 512-447-3776. You guys drive the show. I just try to keep it on the rails. So we ask you, whatever you guys want to talk about, your questions and your comments and your hot takes and whatever else, send those in on the text line. We try to get to every single one on the show to keep you guys as the main focus of the sports complex. But it's going to be a fun weekend. NBA, college football is over, which is disappointing. But the NFL playoffs are just beginning. Both Texas teams are in the NFL playoffs, so cannot wait for that. And we did find out today that last night, right before I went to bed, I did see the tweet out from Sark talking about how Texas is where he wants to be and that it's a good day to be a Longhorn, I believe is what the text said, or the tweet said, and tweeted that out last night. And then this morning, we saw the hype video package from the Longhorns, which he retweeted that Texas is the best place to be and you want to be a coach at Texas, which is basically Florida State has now done that as well after they gave Mike Norvell a new 8-year, $10 million a year contract. They gave him that contract. There's everyone, we know Dan Lanigan, he got his contract, or he's getting his contract, his raise over at Oregon, and he's staying there. He put out his hype video for recruits to let everybody know that he's staying, and it was going down the list, and some people around Alabama were maybe getting a little worried, not the people at Alabama, because they apparently had their guy. And the narrative they will spin, whether it's true or not, is what they're going to say for the history of time, is that when Nick Saban told them he was stepping down in Alabama, they knew their guy. They knew the one they wanted, and all the rest of that's media, the rest of that's smoke screen, but they knew who they wanted, and that is who they signed today. Kalen DeBoer, the head coach from Washington that took Washington to the national championship game. He is now the head coach of Alabama. And it puts us in a crazy place that when we talk about how insane the schedule is for college football and how, you never really get a stop in the recruiting and the transfer portal. And it seemed like the transfer portal was still going, but kind of dying down a little bit. We're seeing where more and more people are landing. Well, Nick Saban leaves, and anytime there's a coaching change at a school, it reopens the transfer portal for 30 days. And that's one of the reasons why Alabama needed to get this hire done by today. They had to have a hire done by today. Because once it gets into the weekend and players are now, going into a Saturday and a Sunday and they don't know, and now they're watching NFL with friends and everyone's asking them where they're playing next year, and if Alabama has it, you can't go. They said they were going to give him 3 days. They get the job done. They hire Kalen DeBoer, but you could not push this any further. We know there's already a couple of people jumping in the portal there, but you hire Washington's coach. So another playoff team, a team in the national championship, their window is now open for 30 days. We've already seen that Dylan Johnson is going to the NFL, the running back for Washington, who was so beat up at the end of the year, and told the story that in the Pac-12 championship game, he was so drugged up. The last carry, he doesn't even really remember. He just remembers telling his coach, his coach told him, don't drop the ball. And he carried it. That's what Kalen DeBoer or the Dylan Johnson remembers. He's going to the NFL. And then there's a big name too in the transfer portal that everyone in Texas got excited about. Jabbar Muhammad, Malik Muhammad's cousin. He is now entered the transfer portal at Washington. And now a lot of these Washington portal guys are not necessarily 5 stars or not. So a lot of them have performed very well. They're going to get more options than they necessarily got coming out of high school, but they may end up at Alabama too. Kalen DeBoer may take some of these guys with him to Alabama, may try and get a couple transfers, that guys that he really likes and guys that are his guys if they want to leave Washington, they don't want to be there. Maybe he'll grab some of them at Alabama to replace some of the guys that are leaving Alabama. But it is crazy to see 2 of the 4 coaches have now left their schools. Now one of them went from one to another, but two of them are left, and we all know that Jim Harbaugh has a very big possibility that he might be leaving too. They're doing the parade in Michigan this weekend. So J.J. McCarthy can't say whether or not he's going pro or he's coming back until he's either going to say it there, or if he's leaving, he doesn't want to, he wants to go have fun and celebrate the championship win. He doesn't want to announce before then. But by the way, the deadline for underclassmen to declare themselves eligible for the draft is Monday. I don't believe that affects Jahdae Barron because he is a senior. He has another year of eligibility with him, but he's not in the underclassmen category. So I don't believe he has to declare by Monday, but you may expect to see if he does or not. If he's coming back, if he's going pro, if he's hitting the portal, we'll see that. That'll be by Monday. But we don't know if he's going to make that decision this weekend or not. But there will be more names. So if we say 3 out of the 4 teams in the college football playoff had the possibility to have different coaches, which means all have their transfer portal open, it means a weird shift in college football that we haven't seen of all these great programs that, other than Alabama, Washington and Michigan were very much teams that were a little bit older and teams that had more guys ready to go to the draft and guys that kind of got to where they were going to go. Michael Penix Jr. and Odunze and a lot of those guys for Washington are going to the next level. However, some of those guys may be coming back. Some good players that we've seen, offensive linemen, defensive linemen for either one of those schools, may want another year and want another opportunity somewhere else to show what they can do. And for Sark, knowing that he's staying, we haven't heard what his contract extension is, but we have to assume that he has gotten a contract extension or is close to having the verbiage finalized and that being announced. That what does Sark want to pull out of this, and who can he get out of this transfer portal to help fix up a team where we know Quinn Ewers after yesterday is coming back? We know there's some pieces, but do you want to add another veteran wide receiver? You've got Matthew Golden, but can you get someone that's a high level, a top guy from Washington, a top guy from Alabama, a top guy from Michigan? Can you go get somebody like that? Can you get another pass rusher? Can you get another linebacker? Can you get some guys in that secondary to grow that secondary and expedite the growth a little bit in that secondary? It'll be an interesting world to see what happens in the next few days. We do know Jabbar Muhammad is the first name that pops up that everyone in Texas says there's an immediate connection to. It is Manny Muhammad, Malik Muhammad's cousin. So you at least have somebody who's going to be calling him, but he may also want to just go to Alabama and follow Kalen DeBoer. We don't know. That's one there. But, yeah, Florida State's going to be still doing well because they are paying Mike Norvell. He is going to stay there. Alabama gets their coach in Kalen DeBoer. I think it's a good hire for Alabama. It's going to be interesting to see if he can recruit, but I'm sure they're going to put some people around him. Nick Saban is still a part of that organization. So if you have Nick Saban to help Kalen DeBoer recruit, because I believe they were 26 this year in recruits in a school that went to the national championship game, 26 a recruiting class at Washington. Another reason why Kalen DeBoer might want to get out of Washington, knowing, well, man, I can win and we can pull it up, but man, it's just hard to recruit. And Alabama, it may be easier to recruit at Alabama because it's Alabama. And if we keep winning and I go into a place where it's already built and I'm just a really good football coach, can he keep the myth and the dynasty going alive at Alabama? And so I think it's a great hire. We will see if there's going to be a butting of the heads. I think that you're going to see more attrition, not necessarily from guys this season, but I think you could see the transfer portal be pretty brutal to Alabama next season for guys who just don't like the coaching style. If it's a different style than Nick Saban, I think you could see some attrition that way. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad hire, because I think you'd see that with any coach. I don't think that he's necessarily, the only one in that. I think whoever you hire, there's going to be a couple people that leave right now that say, that's not who I came to play for. That's not what I want to do. He's not a proven NFL pipeline. And, I didn't come for his offense. Defensive players may say, I wanted a defensive coach in Nick Saban, and that's not what I came here for. We'll see what it ends up with Tommy Rees, the offensive coordinator for Texas, a very sought-after coach as well, when we look into the fact that he is somebody that, if you have Kalen DeBoer, he might bring in his guys. He might bring in his DC that he's been with for years and years. There's a lot of questions that'll still be happening in Alabama, but I think it's a really good hire for Kalen DeBoer at Alabama, and opens up the door that there's now the transfer portal, that if he's not a great recruiter to keep these guys, maybe they'll hop in the portal. Maybe he doesn't recruit them to stay. Maybe he comes in and gives that speech, hey, well, we're going to win, but if you don't want to work, or whatever that speech is that most coaches give, and some guys go, well, screw that, I'm out of here. And they hit the portal, and just another opportunity for Texas football with two teams that are now going to have a 30-day transfer portal, maybe some more people in there. In Michigan, we still don't know. That won't be until they can hire coaches. And, I mean, really, the thought of these teams, do they want to wait until the window opens where they can talk to assistants? Because that window has not opened yet, and it puts everybody behind the line a little bit for hiring college coaches into the pros. Speaking of the pros in the NFL, we did get the word that we know Bill Belichick. Yesterday, the news was that Bill Belichick is out in New England. Not a huge surprise that he is out in New England. And not a huge surprise that Gerard Mayo is now taking over as the head coach. That was the rumor all season long, that he was a guy they wanted. And the only reason that it was maybe not thought that he was a shoo-in was because they thought, well, they underperformed. And so they want somebody completely new to come in. That was not the case with the Crafts. I think if you saw the writing on the wall for the years coming into this, that Bill Belichick has basically continued to lose power. And, the whole Bill Parcells, you want to be the one who buys the groceries. Well, he wasn't necessarily the one that was buying the groceries. Maybe he was DoorDashing it a little bit more. Maybe he was Instacarting it a little bit more. And he'd say, well, I need 2 limes. And they go and get him 2 tiny, pathetic limes. And he says, that's not the limes I wanted. I needed DBs, and you didn't get me the DBs I needed. And you thought that this guy was going to be great. And he didn't turn out that way. And it felt like at a certain point, he didn't want to deal with that anymore. He saw the writing on the wall. He walked away. But Gerard Mayo is coming in. They feel in New England that this is the new path, that this is a much more likable coach. He is much more of a player coach than Bill Belichick is. And it's a first-year coach, but there is a ton of experience in that building that they're going to try and build on. We also saw the Commanders hire Adam Peters, the assistant general manager for the 49ers. He is now the general manager for the Commanders. And it's not huge, but it is something for Cowboys fans to look at, for the 49ers, for Texans fans to look at their roster, that this is another coach, another general manager hired out of the 49ers staff, out of that 49ers tree, that is now looking for coaches and looking at people to bring in. And the Texans raided the 49ers a year ago and brought in some of their guys. When they hired DeMeco Ryans, they also brought in Bobby Slowick, who's getting interest from a lot of guys. Ryan Carthen from the Titans, the general manager of the Titans now, is also a 49ers guy. And now the Commanders, another 49ers guy. Do they go and try and get some of the guys they like from the Texans and offer them bigger positions after we saw what the Texans have been able to achieve? Does Bobby Slowick jump up the ranks to a head coach in 1 year? I wasn't as worried about it until you see another 49ers coach get pulled up there, another 49ers general manager, another 49ers executive, get another job, and you're just spreading out that tree. It's an interesting hire. You never really know with general managers until they get behind and do it themselves. But it's interesting to see what the Commanders will do from here moving forward in their coaching search. We do get NFL playoffs this weekend. By the way, text line's open, 512-447-3776. We'll get to them in just a minute. But I do want to hit some of these games before we go to the text line, just to give you a quick breakdown. I won't go too far into it, into the games and give you too much. We'll talk about them more on the text line. If you got questions about games or theories or takes or whatever about the games on the text line, send that in, and then we'll talk more about whatever you guys want to talk about in the games. But I don't have the big statistical breakdowns. I'm going to play you some stuff from Hook 'em Up with Ian Rod B, with Rod Babers going through, because Rod Babers has all the stats. I'll play you some of that. But we'll look at the games kind of in order. Let's go in order of how the games are going to go. The Browns and the Texans are playing tomorrow. That'll be the first game of the playoffs. We know that the Browns are favored by 1.5. It is in Houston, so that's a positive there. They did play a couple weeks ago and the Browns won. However, that was a Case Keenum starting game. That was a game where I believe Case Keenum played so badly that they put in Davis Mills, and it's a really good defense. The Browns have a great defense. The offense can get going well. Amari Cooper put up 265 yards passing or receiving against the Texans, which is always frustrating to see you get just lit up in the passing game. Texans are a little bit healthier in that defensive end than they were, and the big piece, C.J. Stroud, is back. We will say that on the Browns side, that everybody looks like they're going to be playing. It seems like Denzel Ward, their Pro Bowl cornerback, is going to be in and be playing in the game. It seems like Amari Cooper will be back and playing in the game. It seems like Myles Garrett, who is hurting, is going to be playing in the game. But the question is, can you hit them hard enough and continue to hit them hard enough that their productivity diminishes throughout the game? They have to miss some plays, and you're able to make big plays, because this Browns defense, as good as it is so much based in the pass rush. That's where they're based. And that's where C.J. Stroud is going to have to step up and handle the business to get the ball out, continue to not get flustered. He's been very good at checking down and getting the ball out and not taking sacks this season. He's been very good at, when things aren't available, checking down immediately and just trying to get that 4 and 5 yards and using the run game out of the passing game to try and get some sort of yardage and not take sacks and not take huge hits, because they're going to be coming after him for sure. And I think you're going to see some play action from these Texans as well, as we've seen that Singletary has really been the guy who's come on. Dameon Pierce was the one everybody wanted to be the guy in Houston. Had a great rookie season, has never quite fit in to this Bobby Slowick running offense. And Singletary has figured it out a lot quicker. Since week 9, he's averaged 4.5 yards a carry. So he's not getting a ton of carries, but he is averaging 4.5 yards a carry, which is pretty good for you. The Browns are allowing just over 5 yards per carry. So if the Browns are averaging just over 5 yards, allowing 5 yards per carry, and Singletary's around that number as well, it bodes well for the Texans that one of their weakest points is that run game, that they should be able to get some yardage on the ground. The more yards you can get on the ground, the more you can use that play action. Give C.J. Stroud a little bit more time to try and find Nico Collins downfield or find Robert Woods downfield. But that's going to be the question. Can the Browns pass rush get home? Can that offensive line that the Texans have spent a lot of time and money trying to build, can Laramie Tunsil have a big game? He's not thrilled that he's not on that all-pro first team, so he's not happy about that. Can he use that to get himself up to play for this Browns team? I think the Texans have a good shot to win this one. I think Derek Stingley's going to have a good game. If you can get in there and get a turnover or two on Joe Flacco as well, those are going to be big plays. So we know Flacco's been playing well, but he still turns the ball over at a high rate. After that game, we have the Dolphins and Chiefs. Chiefs are favored by -4, by 4 points. However, this is going to be a game about weather again. That there's supposed to be a wind chill of -30. It could be below 0 at kickoff. And we know with games like this that are very cold, it tends to go to the running game. And a lot of times it goes to a power running game. That's not what the Dolphins have. There is no power running game for the Dolphins. Can Raheem Mostert and Devin Achane get in and stay healthy in this weather and run the ball? Because if you're relying on Tua to make big plays, I don't know if that's going to work out for you. I think you're also going to see screens and other options to get Tyreek the ball quickly and see if he can use his feet with the ball in hand and what can he do there. But Mike McDaniel's probably drawing up some plays, one of the best offensive minds in the game, trying to draw up some plays like that. For the Chiefs, the big news is Isaiah Pacheco has been trending up the entire end of the season, playing better and better. He's going to need to be a big part of this game because the Chiefs wide receivers haven't been able to catch all season. They haven't been able to catch a ball when perfect temperatures, indoors. And now you're going to put him out in a huge game against some good secondary and Dolphins. I know they're beat up a little bit in that secondary, but they still have some decent players out there. I don't know if Xavier Bryce is going to be able to play or not. If he plays, especially, they got some good defenders back there. But to see what they can do, Xavier Howard, sorry, if they can get out there. And I just don't know if the Chiefs are going to be able to get any offense going. It's going to be all about Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Pacheco for that offense. If the Dolphins offense is able to move the ball, if this running game of Mostert and Achane is able to move the ball, they win the game. If they can't, they lose. It really comes down to as simple as that if they can run the ball in this cold weather and they can use their speed, and Kansas City can't get up to that speed because they're just too cold and they're just too, frozen in the world to move, that is going to be the problem for the Chiefs. I still think the Chiefs can get this game with their experience, with their defense, how well Spags has got that defense going. I have the Chiefs winning this one as well. And starting on Sunday, Steelers and Bills. This one seems pretty simple. Now, they are hiring people to shovel the field and shovel the stadium for Buffalo. They've already put out an ad. If you're over 18 years old and able-bodied, you can show up Saturday night at 10 p.m. and start shoveling the stadium to work overnight through the night, shoveling the stadium to get it ready for the Steelers and Bills, where it's completely covered in snow right now. They really have that going on. The Steelers, look, the reality is Steelers are barely winning games right now. Their offense is abysmal. TJ Watt is out. It's going to be another game where you're going to have to run the ball. And look, I like Najee Harris, but I think Josh Allen is going to be able to do what he does in this game. Josh Allen wins the game, and he may turn the ball over twice, 3 times, and still win this game. I think Josh Allen's going to be too much. It is an interesting note. Both offensive coordinators fired this year for the Steelers and Bills. Of course, a big game, Packers and Cowboys. Cowboys are a 7-point favorite in this game. This is another game where the Cowboys probably get lucky like the Texans do, that they're playing against not a great run defense. The Packers are 9th in pass D, but they're 23rd in rushing defense. They're also 19th in first half scoring. I think you're going to be able to see the Cowboys still be able to get CeeDee Lamb. I don't know if they have anybody who can cover CeeDee Lamb. Get some points on the board early, and then in that second half, the 23rd in rushing defense, allow Rico Dowdle and Tony Pollard to carry the ball and stretch this game out and try and use ball control in that second half. Try and hold on to a 7 or 14-point lead and just be able to push the ball. And that Packers defense, I don't know if they're going to be able to stop the Cowboys. This seems like a game that the Cowboys should have in hand. Now, we know they haven't in the past in the playoffs. We know the history between these two teams. Jordan Love's having a hell of a season, but I just don't see him getting to the point against this Cowboys team, how well they're playing right now, and a pissed-off Micah Parsons, who feels he is being disrespected, as he feels he is the best defender in football, and he is not making the first-team All-Pros. He is going to second-team, and I think that's pissing him off. That's a good thing for the Cowboys. So you want to have a pissed-off Micah Parsons trying to kill Jordan Love. That would be a fun thing. And finally, on Sunday night, Rams and Lions. The Lions are 27th in passing defense. The Rams are going to put up points on them. They're just going to. Sean McVay's too good of an offensive coach to not put up points against a really weak secondary in Detroit. And so that means if Detroit wants to win this game, Jared Goff has to show that Sean McVay was wrong. I think Matthew Stafford is going to have no problem ripping the heart out of Detroit Lions fans. I don't think he'll have any problem doing that. But I think that Jared Goff, if they want to have a shot in this game, he has to be great. He cannot turn the ball over and give the ball back to this Los Angeles offense. They've just been playing too good at the end of the season. Sean McVay's too good of a coach, and I don't see any opportunity if Jared Goff turns the ball over. He needs to be the guy he was a couple years ago when he first came to Detroit, and really people were going high on. They were pretty high on him last year, and then this year he hasn't been bad, but he hasn't been the same guy and been as electric. You need to have that guy in the game. Eagles and Buccaneers play on Monday. We'll talk about that more on Monday. Hopefully we will not all be iced in there on Monday. We'll get to all of that. Let's get to Patrick's Big Fat Poll. We'll take a quick break and come back and hit up that text line. Let's hit the poll, though.
Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the day on the Horn.
Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the day today. You know, there's a lot of playoff superstitions. People have playoff beards. People get haircuts, mohawks, dye their hair, do whatever for the playoffs, and say, until we lose, we're going to play and we're going to keep going. Those are playoff superstitions. Do you have one? Do you have one that you wear your same outfit, same jersey, you wear the same jacket? Do you not wash a lucky pair of underwear during the playoffs? Do you keep your haircut? Do you not shave? Do you not brush your teeth? That's pretty gross. But is there something you don't do or do during the playoffs that is your superstition that you do until your team gets knocked out and then you don't care or whatever else? Or do you just not, you're not a superstitious person? Let us know on the text line 512-447-3776, your playoff superstitions for your team, and what do you do to make sure that your team, you're in solidarity with your team to get the win. All right, text line's open, 512-447-3776. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will get into your text, and we'll also get into a little behind the burnt orange curtain with Ian Rob B. Back on the Sports Complex, it is a 512 Friday where we are playing all local music that you can go check out around town this weekend. This is Paul Val. He's going to be doing a recording tonight and tomorrow night at Continental Club. So you can check out Paul Val. He is killing it right now. Just an awesome player. Awesome, sings well too, does everything well. Go check out Paul Val. He's playing tonight and tomorrow night at Continental Club. All right. Back on the Sports Complex here on the Horn. I want to play some sound from Hook 'em Up with Ian Rod B. Text line is open as well, 512-447-3776. I did see someone says Dan Lanning, are you talking about the villain in The Sting? I can tell you I've not seen The Sting, but I did mean Dan Lanning. Sorry, Dan Lanning. This is the crazy part, I will tell you, of doing a show like this is you do it, and then I do other work in the morning. I kind of prep a little bit in the morning, and you try and get prepped, and then I show up and I do more prep, and I'm writing down all these names and writing down, and you're trying to write, and then everything's a mush when you start talking about it. Everything just mushes together, and you forget names that you've said 100 times. So I apologize, but yes, Dan Lanning, the coach from Oregon, is who I meant to say there. I do want to play some sound from Hook 'em Up with Ian Rod B. They were talking about some Texas news. Quinn Ewers coming back, what it means for Texas. It's a replay from the show on today. We'll play that little replay, and then we'll get to the text line, 512-447-3776, with your questions and your comments. If you want to jump in the poll, what is your playoff superstition since the NFL playoffs are starting tomorrow? It's going to be a fun 2 days of watching football. I know that. But here's a Hook 'em Up with Ian Rod B replay right here on the Sports Complex.
All right, let's talk about the headlines coming out of 40 Acres, and I think a few of them are really positive headlines. And one is Quinn coming back. We talked about that. Played the sound from his announcement that he posted via social media yesterday. It seemed like it was almost like a news dump. It just came. We were waiting on the Quinn Ewers announcement. Everybody expected him to announce that he was coming back to school, but he did it in a very low-key fashion. I think that's just a personality of Quinn Ewers, kind of a low-key guy. But he did announce he was coming back. Really good news for the Longhorns. His Heisman odds, I believe right now, he is tied for the best Heisman odds along with Jalen Milroe. And this will truly be Quinn Ewers' team. Him coming back, the first couple of years he's been here, it hasn't been really his team, right? He's been more of a complimentary piece, and he has been more of an observer to it being Bijan and Rojo's team when he first got here. And even last season, this past season, I should say, it was more about the great skill talent around him, right? Elite skill talent. A.D. Mitchell's going to be drafted in the first 2 rounds. So will Xavier Worthy. So will J.T. Sanders. I can't think of the last time Texas had 3 offensive skill players taken in the first 2 rounds. It's been a while. Right, Texas is going to have that ability, and we don't know where Jay Brooks is going to go. Jay Brooks ends up being drafted maybe in the 3rd round. So you had a lot of great skill talent that was able to uplift the play of Quinn Ewers. This season, it'll be on him to make the others around him better. These are unproven commodities. These are young, inexperienced guys as opposed to the really experienced guys who you had great chemistry and continuity with the first 2 years. Now it's going to be up to Quinn, who's a veteran in the system. He's got, familiarity and intimate familiarity with this system now in his 3rd year. He should be able to teach the system. I remember Tom Herman telling me, and Sam Mellinger's, I believe that was Sam's 3rd year. It was Sam's 3rd year, and I remember Tom Herman saying, "Oh no, Sam knows my system, my offensive system so well now. He tells me he makes checks and reveals things about my system that I didn't know." Right? He's revealing different concepts and different loopholes within the system that he didn't realize, because that's how intimately knowledgeable Sam Ehlinger was in that Tom Herman system by his 3rd and 4th year. And I think that's where Quinn is now in his 3rd year. He should know that Sark system so well. He should be able to teach it, which he will be doing in the offseason when he's organizing the throwing session. He's organizing the 7-on-7, organizing the team workouts. He should be teaching it to these youngsters. So a lot of the ground that needs to be made up with chemistry, with continuity, with timing, these young receivers learning the offense, getting adapted and acclimated to the offense, that'll be Quinn's responsibility. And it'll be happening in the offseason, stuff where we cannot see and we can't observe. And that is something I can't wait to see how he responds. I think he's going to respond really well to it. He even remarked that he was looking forward to the burden of that type of leadership. And that's what it is when it's your team. And this is going to be Quinn's team. All right, that's going to be part of his legacy. Last year, like I said, it was a collection of skilled talent and star talent at the skilled positions. Before that, same thing, but Bijan and Rojo's team pretty much in terms of the identity of the offense. The identity of this offense, the identity of this team it's Quinn's team. And it's not your Byron Murphy and T'Vondre Sweat, the D tackles. That won't be the talk. It ain't Jalen Ford. All right, it's just Quinn's team.
Yeah.
Period.
You're right about that.
And that'll be the narrative, and I can't wait to see how he responds.
Year one, of course, he had to beat out Hudson Card, so there's a quarterback competition,
yeah.
So it really couldn't be his team. And then, Bijan and Roschon were so integral to the leadership roles, and that was picked up by, as you said, Byron Murphy and T'Vondre Sweat and Jalen Ford this year. And Quinn Ewers was elevated by his receiving corps.
Yes, he was.
Xavier Worthy and A.D. Mitchell and as you said, J.T. Sanders, all guys are going to be off playing on Sundays, helped elevate Quinn, and now Quinn's got to help elevate everybody else. He's got to be the guy. And, as you were, Rod, you were a football researcher, you're a football studier of the game. That's what Quinn's got to be. Quinn's got to dig down deep. Somebody said Quinn needs to work on his footwork. I would agree with that. Study C.J. Stroud. I think C.J. Stroud has some of the best footwork of any quarterback at any level. Mm-hmm. If you watch him play the Browns tomorrow, watch his base, watch his feet, watch how he keeps his wide base, and he's always in a position to throw the ball. It's really, really good. It's one of the reasons he's so accurate, Rod.
Yeah.
Because he keeps his feet and he keeps them active. But then when it's time, man, that ball's gone. But he's always off a solid. If he's in the pocket, he's off a strong platform. That's something Quinn, I think, struggles with because he kind of gets off his feet a little bit. He'll get off his back foot and he'll start leaning around.
Yeah.
And he'll want to make that little sidearm throw.
Off-platform throw, which he can make. But like you said, why make it harder on yourself when you can go through the mechanics and be a little bit more sound? And you're right about that. And I agree with that. I think when he gets deeper into his progression, that's why people say he's a first-read quarterback and a one-read quarterback. And that's true. I think he's more of a first read than a one-read. One read would imply you can't get through a progression read. I think he can. I think he becomes erratic, though, and the footwork is a part of that. I think his mechanics start to suffer when he gets deeper into progressions, and he starts to see, and he sees pressure instead of feeling pressure. He looks at it, and I think that's why ultimately he gets erratic with his feet. I think he, the
panics a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's why it happens, and I think that's why Sark decided to tell him, listen, you can scramble a little bit more. That first read is gone, and you start to freak out, and you feel yourself freaking out, and you're not calm, and all right, you're not cool. Just get out there and just go run.
Run, Forrest.
Or check it down. There'll be a check down. Your check down's right there. Just check it down. And this season, what has he done? Run and check down. I think the NFL wants to see him because you can't be running in the NFL all the time. They'll have your check downs, but the NFL wants to see that first round quarterback get deeper into a progression. Get to your second, get to your third read with sound mechanics, with sound footwork, like you said, and still, like C.J. Stroud does, be able to get to your third read in a progression and still make a sound, accurate throw from a great base. That's what they want to see from Quinn, because right now, Quinn, when he's throwing to the first read, he's the best quarterback in the country. Yeah. I'm serious. When he's throwing to his first read, you can make the argument he's the best. I know you're like, what? That's great. Even going up against Caleb Williams is best actually deeper into the play. He's actually best on his second reaction plays. When the play breaks down is when he's actually at his best. Right now, they want to see him go through actual natural pocket progressions and stay in the pocket with him. Everybody's got their own data points of evaluation that they need to work on. But for Quinn, when Quinn's hitting the first read, when his first read is open, it's accurate. The ball, the touch is there, ball placement. But when he's got to get to that second and third, that's when things get a little bit off. He sees the pressure, and you'll notice sometimes the ball comes out and the accuracy is a little off, or he's throwing off platform, or like he just remarked, the back foot. But if he gets deeper into the progressions and he's able to make accurate throws with the proper mechanics and with sound footwork, I think that's going to be the next challenge for him. And feeling the pressure, not seeing it. That's the Penix X-Man ability. He feels pressure against Michigan. He felt it and he saw it. Usually, quarterbacks feel that pressure, but the eyes are downfield, and the mechanics, they stay sound because you're continuing to keep your eyes downfield and you're going through progressions, thinking about throwing the football. Once you see that pressure, your natural instincts are going to take over, and you're going to want to get the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah.
Or you're going to take your eyes off of the route progressions, and your eyes are going to go to the guy that's coming to take your head off. And how can you not freak out about that when you see it?
Yeah.
And I think for him, he's got to, in his periphery, he's got to feel it, and he doesn't do that as well, which I think he will.
That's the development, though.
Yeah.
That's a quarterback because I mean, in high school at South Lake Carroll, he's all one progression reads,
Yeah,
right?
boom.
Everything
Guys wide
there.
open. Yeah.
And then he didn't play his senior year, and we know he didn't play at Ohio State. So everything he's doing is in real time at Texas, and it's been was ugly at times in year one, and Sark was willing to let him take his lumps and learn from it. He got better in year two, and
Much better.
you expect if there's a similar leap in year three, it's going to be pretty damn good next year.
Heisman finalist.
Because the one thing I'll say for Quinn, even though the flaws were there, 37 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. He doesn't turn the ball over typically.
I agree with that.
And that's a great place to start. I mean 37 touchdowns, 12 picks. As a 2-year starter. So he's taking care of the football. Now he's got to take that next step as a progression quarterback. Good stuff right there, Rod Babers.
I agree. Good stuff right there, Rod Babers. That is some behind the burnt orange curtain. They do it every day there. Weekday morning, 6 to 11 right here on the Horn from Hook 'em Up with Ian Rod B. But good stuff there, talking about the importance of Quinn Ewers coming back. And now we figured when that happened that Sark wasn't going anywhere. That was the assumption. But he makes that known as well, that Sark will not be going anywhere. And for year 3 into a system, when you're seeing guys like what Penix did, and there's too many names to mention of quarterbacks that when they get to that, 3rd, 4th, 5th year in a system, they can really start to pick teams apart and really start taking to that next level. His progression from year 1 to year 2 in the system was a monumental leap. He was not a bad quarterback his first year, but his second year, he was a much better quarterback. You can believe that will be something that he will come in and be even better in year 3 under Sark on this offense. Now, he's going to have to go up against some really tight defenses and really good defenses going into the SEC. He's going to have to learn some new tendencies from defensive coordinators. He's going to have to learn to have some new targets. There's some of those, like Isaiah Bond, Alabama transfer, a guy that Texas has looked at and talked to and everything else, may end up at Tech. He may not, but that's somebody who's transferring out of Alabama, was one of the first in the portal after the news that Nick Saban was stepping down. He may want to head over and hang out with Sark there in Texas. So that would be something to add him in with the Matthew Golden and all the great young wide receivers Texas has. Because I think that's the thing. You do want to bring in a Jonte Cook and guys like that to step up the next generation of wide receivers at Texas. However, if you're trying to stay in that college ball playoff area, then you need to bring in some veterans as well. You may see more rotation at the wide receiver position next season than you saw this season, where he basically had his guys and they played as many snaps as they possibly could and they got all the targets. You may see a little bit more of a rotation come next season, but you may not. Sark may find his guys again, and that is the lineup he rolls out there with. He is big on trust. He is big on getting guys that he wants to be the guy, and we'll see next season what he tries to trot out there. But let's take a break. When we come back, we'll get to the text line. It's open, 512-447-3776. If you have anything you want to talk about the NFL playoffs, about all the coaching news and the news in college football, send that in. If you have anything to add to our poll of the day, what is your playoff superstition? Do you have one that you like to do? Do you go extra in the playoffs? Do you throw bigger parties in the playoffs? Do you watch games by yourself in the playoffs? Do you have anything that in the playoffs you watch football differently or do life differently because it's the playoffs and regular season? Let us know in the text line. 512-447-3776 is the text line number. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will get into the text line. We'll keep it going here on the Sports Complex in the Horn 1019, AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Back on the Sports Complex here on the Horn. It's a 512 Friday where we play local bands that are going to be around town this weekend. You can go catch them live. This is Trouble in the Streets. They're going to be playing Saturday at Antone's. So if you enjoy all your Saturday activities and watching the playoffs and Texas basketball and all that, and they decide you want to head out, they'll be playing Saturday at Antone's. Or if you don't get Peacock and you get mad because Peacock is carrying the game and they don't. Look, I tweeted this out. Find a wrestling fan. All us wrestling fans have Peacock because it's the WWE Network, and so to watch all the old wrestling that we like, we have to have, and all the premium live events and all that stuff. You have to have Peacock, so we already have it. So just go find yourself a wrestling fan and tell them you'll watch whatever match that they want to watch. If they let you watch the Chiefs and Dolphins game, I don't know how good of a game it's gonna be with those temperatures and a Dolphins team that is not used to those temperatures. And Kansas City's a little bit more used to it, but their wide receivers can't catch anyway. So who knows? Let's get to the text line 512-447-3776. 512-447-3776 is the text line number. Texter says, Isaiah Bond to Texas is a move to watch. Yes, it is. A wide receiver out of Alabama. He is somebody that Texas fans should keep an eye on, check out. There's no, I haven't heard anything more than he would probably like Sark's system that there's been talks about in the past. And so there's a chance it'll happen, but I think it's all pretty fresh. So we'll see if that's where he decides to end up or if he has another destination in mind. And now that they've hired Kalen DeBoer, technically he can pull his name back out of the portal and say, okay, I'm happy to play here. I liked what that offense was. Let's see. Phil the Thrill says, if I were a prospective Bama recruit, Kalen DeBoer does not move the needle for me. Get me pumped. What say you? And I'll throw this one in because this is another text. Do you think DeBoer will be as good of a coach without Penix? He had him at Indiana and Washington. And is it true? Lorenzo says, is it true that DeBoer is the next coach for Alabama? Yes, DeBoer is the next coach at Alabama. Alabama has now put that out there. He is going to be the next coach. And a lot of people asking about will it move and is he going to be good? DeBoer's won everywhere he's been. So I think he's going to be a very good coach. The biggest issue he's going to have to deal with is changing his mentality, his sales pitch, and his coaching from being the underdog. And, I mean, you can still have some of that, but you're Alabama, and you are the team. You're the team the same way Texas is, where everybody in the Big 12 wanted to beat Texas, and we go to the SEC. I bet everybody's going to want to beat Texas too. But, you come from a place where everybody wants to meet Texas, or everybody wants to beat Texas, and everybody wants to beat Alabama. Everybody wants to go after you, and now they feel some weakness, and they smell some blood in the water. They want to beat you, but you're not the underdog. You can't claim to be the underdog when Nick Saban had more first-round draft picks than losses, that no one was beating you. You can't claim to be the underdog anymore. So once you can't claim to be the underdog, can Kalen DeBoer get his guys to that next level? Can he sell these guys that are the top recruits, that he's not going to recruit a 3-star and tell him, I think you have greatness in you. Let's go achieve that greatness at Washington. He's going to have to sell 5 stars. Yeah, everyone's telling you you're great, but you should come play for me, and this is why. So he's going to have to shift the narrative a little bit about what he does, but he's a great coach. I think he can do it. And if you're saying, I don't know if it moves a needle, I think you're thinking of it in the sense of not being an 18-year-old kid whose entire college football watching experience of real watching is probably a 7-year, 8-year period where Kalen DeBoer has been a factor for a couple of years, especially if they watch Pac-12 at all. Anybody on that West Coast, he's going to open up the West Coast that may not be as, hooked into SEC. He probably has more connections over in that area. He's also got the connections in the Indiana area where he was coaching there before. So I think he's got some areas where he'll be able to go into, and people have seen him coach and seen his success. But you're thinking of it more in the sense of, no, I want somebody whose name I've heard for 10 years, not a guy who I had a friend who texted me today, and I said, DeBoer's going to be the coach. It looks like DeBoer's going to be the coach at Alabama. His response was, who is DeBoer and what happened to the Washington coach? And it was like, well, those are the same person, and that's the reason. But that was, some people just never picked up. You lose sight of it, and I lose sight of it because I talk about this every day, that you lose sight that some people just didn't, may not know who he is. So there is some of that he's not as well. The name marketability isn't Nick Saban, but for a high school player who's 17 years old, 16 years old, and you figure since he was 10 to 12 is when he really started paying attention to college football. Kalen DeBoer is not that crazy of a name to fit in there when you go into recruiting. Now, for the parents, it may be different, but they'll look at his record. They'll look at what he's been able to do at smaller levels and say, this guy's a great coach. And offensively, the numbers he put up at Washington would make you think, okay, this is a guy I want to go play for. For Sark, it wasn't necessarily his track record, because his track record at USC wasn't good when he was recruiting here at Texas. But his offense was something people wanted to get into. And when people see what he did with Michael Penix, that took a guy that people thought, that still think that he's not the top talent, and took some wide receivers that weren't the top guys and made him that, I think some people may want to jump in and have him as a coach. I don't think I don't think that it's going to hurt the recruiting a ton in that sense. I think it hurts recruiting more in the fact that Kalen DeBoer is just not necessarily the BS salesman that you got to be a recruiter. Like, Dan Lanning is really good at selling. He is a expert salesman of, I will make Oregon the greatest program. He got 2 transfer quarterbacks. That's how good of a salesman Dan Lanning is. And Kalen DeBoer is not that guy. He's a great coach, but he may not be the salesman they need at Alabama. But if Nick Saban stays on and helps in that area to transition and teach him, he could be creating a monster at Alabama. Now, time will tell. Can he not go coach with the underdog mentality? Can he go in and continue to coach and not build a team up? And is he going to be able to keep flipping players and have a new quarterback every 1 or 2 years and be able to continue to make the college ball playoffs? That only time will tell. But as far as people wanting to play for him, I think offensively, people definitely will want to play in that system. Defensively is the question, how much is it his system? Does he bring his guy that he's been with for a long time, defensive coordinator for Washington? Do the guys want to play in that system? I think that may be more what is to see. Do they lose some edge on the defensive end? That'll be a question to see with Kalen DeBoer coming in. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll get back to the text line, 512-447-3776. Hit some basketball talk. Reset the stories. Hit some basketball talk. We'll do that when we come back here on the Sports Complex on the Horn 1019, AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Hour 2 here on the Sports Complex on a Friday afternoon, hour till we get to the weekend and I can enjoy my Friday night and get ready for a big Houston Texans playoff game on Saturday. Enjoy my Saturday after the Texans beat the Browns, and then wake up and enjoy going and hang out with some Cowboys friends and watch the Cowboys take care of the Packers. Watch all that NFL football. Watch some way too cold games where you just look at it now and you think, man, do you think they kind of wish they had a dome right now? Or they wish they had a top to that? You know they do in Kansas City. You know they do in Buffalo for another year. Because it's not really an advantage. Not really an advantage to being super cold. With both teams get hurt by it. And you're like, well, we're more used to it. But yeah, it kind of makes the game just worse. Was it Zeke Elliott came out this week and said that he always wanted to play a snow game, always wanted to do it, thought it was going to be the coolest thing, playing a snow game. And he's like, this sucks. I don't like that one bit. It's like, yeah, that's right, Zeke. We all remember growing up and thinking how much fun it would be. Oh, we're going to go play out. This is football weather. That feels like one of the biggest lies that we were told, is that football weather is cold, and that is not the case. It's when there's good football on, it is cold outside. But that does not, they're not the same. It is not fun to play and walk back in, your hands are burning and all of that. Never fun. Never fun. We'll also get into a lot of basketball talk, some Big 12 basketball, some NBA basketball as well in this hour. Play some sound from Hook 'em Up, talking about the Cowboys versus Packers, giving you more of a preview for that. We'll get into all that and more of your text. 512-447-3776 is the text line. And if you guys want to join in on the poll of the day, we're asking you for your playoff superstitions. Any superstition for things you change, outfits you wear, you know, whether you shave or don't shave or whatever you do, or you only shower the left side of your body. I don't know what it could be, what your playoff superstition is, that you have to do this until your team gets knocked out. We know James Harden, that's why he has the big beard, is because he was going to shave it when he wins a title. I'll give him the Clippers. This is the best team he's been on probably. This Clippers team looks pretty good right now. They're annoyingly good for who's on that team. For how many people I don't like on that team. That is an annoying team right now as the Clippers. It's like, come on, someone get in a fight. Blow this team up. So Russell Westbrook, get mad about something. But they're playing really good. They're playing good basketball right now. To recap, the biggest news story for Texas is that Sark late last night, about 11:30 or so, tweeted out, it's a good day to be a Longhorn. And then this morning we saw the Texas hype video talking about how Texas is the best place, and he came here to win a title, and that's what he's going to do. We saw that video. He retweeted that with the Hook 'em Horns. So that is so good news that he was not going to be taking the Alabama job. We know Dan Lanning posted that he was not going to be doing it, put his hype video out. Mike Norvell gets a new big contract, 8 years, $10 million a year, if not more. And he'll have his that he's not, and so he wasn't going. All those hype videos came out. Then we got the news that Kalen DeBoer, who was one of the favorites the entire time. What Alabama fans will tell you, that was the guy. In Alabama, the people that were hiring at Alabama will tell you that was the guy. We're never looking anywhere else. The only other name that was really in that conversation, or until you started going down, because when we started to hear Tommy Rees's name, that was where it started to go, okay, maybe they're not going to be able to get a big name. The only other big name that was out there was Dabo Swinney, and apparently a lot of Bama fans did not want Dabo Swinney. Did not want Dabo, but he was supposed to be, for a long time, when he was winning, when he was doing really well at Clemson, he was the next guy to replace Nick Saban. He was the next guy at Alabama because he's a Bama guy. Everybody thought that he would be the next guy. But then, a couple of seasons of not underperforming, and now nobody in Alabama wants him. A lot of people in Alabama upset about Kalen DeBoer. I don't quite get that, but I think they're going to be upset about anybody, because anything is not Nick Saban. They hope that he was just going to come out and go, guys, I on the weekend I found the fountain of youth and I'm back. I'm 50 years old again, and let's go the fountain of youth for Nick Saban. Get back to 50, and then I'll be a great coach and we'll keep going. But that is not the case. But a good hire. I like the hire for Alabama. I think it's a good hire. I think it's good for Kalen DeBoer. I don't think he would have liked to leave Washington that soon, but the AD who hired him was not there anymore. He's losing a lot of guys to the draft. He lost a lot of seniors, and you're going to the Big Ten. It's he'd have to rebuild with not a great recruiting class and keep building that up. We'll see if he's going to be able to do that. We also didn't mention this at the top, but the FSU, that they are having a heck of a year. that FSU, is the front runner to make the playoffs, and they don't make the playoffs. Then they got routed 63-3 after everybody opts out. They're complaining. They're filing a lawsuit. They're trying to get out of the ACC now. They want out of there. Then they re-signed Mike Norvell to a big contract, and they are getting sanctions or punishments in NIL recruiting penalties that they were allegedly, or I guess NIL saying they did it at this point, that a booster talked to a player before he was like on a visit, which you're not supposed to do, and offered him $15,000 a month in his first season if he were to come to Florida State. The player did not go to Florida State. He ended up going to Georgia. But that was the penalties to an assistant coach who was part of it, to the booster, to the Florida State team, all the things you got to get up. Eventful few weeks for Florida State, or a few eventful couple months for Florida State if you're a Florida State fan. But yeah, so if you missed the news, Sark's not going to Alabama. Kalen DeBoer is going to Alabama. It also opens up the transfer portal for both Alabama for 30 days and now Washington for 30 days. If Jim Harbaugh leaves and goes to the NFL, that's a Michigan team, and 3 out of the 4 teams in the playoffs could have new coaches and have the transfer portal open at the same time. Texas, not one of them, though. That is a good scene to see. Texas is not there, that Sark is staying. All right, let's get to some basketball talk. I know we had some panic mode for Texas. People are still not putting Texas that highly. We still see rankings of them not making the tournament, which I think is a bit of an overreaction. I think that, if you watch Texas without Dylan DeSue, I don't think they've really been full health yet. And so to judge them on a lot of what they've done so far seems preemptive. To judge them without Dylan DeSue and assuming that he's not going to be what he was and what he was against Cincinnati and what he was last year in the NCAA tournament, to just assume that he's not going to be that kind of impact, I think is a little premature. To assume that Max Abmas will not continue to get better as he learns to play at a higher level. I think Tyrese Hunter's been playing really well. And if we see what Caden Shedrick, if he's able to mix in and build with that team, we could see some really special. I think Dylan Mitchell will keep getting better as well. He's getting better. He's better than he was last year already. Just has a better IQ on the offensive end now. And his defense is still good. So I don't know why. I would not be leaving them out of the tournament so far, but a lot of people are. A lot of people trying to take hate on them. I think it's also a good way to get people to, talk about your stuff. They're going to be playing West Virginia on Saturday. Another part, Texas is ranked 30th in field goal percentage, 56 in three-point percentage. Those are not bad percentages for a team that has not been full health, and for a team that has a guy that's a bulk shooter like Max Abmas. You wouldn't expect to be 30th in field goal percentage in the country. That's a pretty good sign for them. West Virginia is not necessarily the biggest obstacle, so you do have to go in there and assert dominance. You do have to be ready. We talked about it the other day about intensity. This is one of those games where it's real easy to look past it and say you're going into West Virginia and it doesn't matter. And you're going to beat them. This is a team that has always been competitive with Bob Huggins, but then everything went down with Bob Huggins last year. Then a bunch of people transferred out, and they're not in a great place. The basketball team for West Virginia is not in a great place. One of their best players, Jesse Edwards, a big 6'11" Jesse Edwards. He's averaging 14 points, 9 rebounds a game. He is injured right now with a wrist injury, so he is not going to be playing in the game. He's right now scheduled to be out. We don't know about Shedrick. He is questionable for the game, but it's a big piece that if you take that big man out for them, to hurt them in rebounding, hurt them in scoring, and just defense down in the post, that's going to be a problem for West Virginia against Texas. They do have a guy, Quinn Slazinski. He's going to be a bigger guy that could cause a problem. He's probably going to hit some threes against you you're going to dislike because he's a 6'9" guy who shoots okay from three-point range. So that'll be a place. And Raekwon Battle is the other guy. He's only playing 5 games this season coming back from injury, but Raekwon Battle is a good player. He's going to try and go off against Texas as well. Texas just needs to hit some shots, play aggressive, continue to not turn the ball over, and they should be able to win this game against West Virginia. It should not be a close game, but it's a Big 12. Anything can happen. But Texas favored heavily in that game. Some other big Big 12 action happening this weekend. Number 9 Oklahoma is at number 3 Kansas, both of them coming off of losses. So that is a big level for both of them. OU right now, though, is another defensive powerhouse. Kansas had that problem against Iowa State, who was able to beat Kansas UCF. I can't remember who beat, but Kansas had the problem, but they were playing against a really good defensive team and held them down. I believe it was Iowa State. And so if you have that problem that you're having issues playing against this kind of team, Oklahoma is not giving you much better. They're holding teams to 28% three-point percentage, 40% shooting from the floor. Not great percentages. This is a game for Kansas that they really want to bounce back at. It is at Kansas, so they should win. But Oklahoma is going to have to rebound and respond, as this will be 2 straight if they lose this one. So we'll see if both these teams, Oklahoma looks so good to start the season, see if they can continue on that trend against Kansas. We'll also see Cincinnati versus Baylor. Baylor's right now number 14. Baylor's just a better team than Cincinnati. Texas versus Cincinnati was at Cincinnati, so there was something more to be said about that home field advantage, home court advantage. I don't think they're going to have any level of that success against Baylor. What they're going to need to do, though, is do what they did against Texas and get Texas into foul trouble, especially Victor Larkin versus V's Missy, the freshman big man for Baylor. If they're able to get him into foul trouble, slow him down a little bit, Jalen Bridges will probably be okay. He's a senior. I don't think he's going to get necessarily in that amount of foul trouble. But if you can get some of those bigs for Baylor in foul trouble and let a Victor Larkin get down into the post and be able to do some of the stuff he does, it could spell more trouble for a Baylor team and get this game a little bit closer. But look for Baylor to be able to handle what they do there. Kansas State is taking on Texas Tech. Both teams undefeated in the Big 12. Unfortunately for K-State, they're going into Texas Tech. They do have a turnover problem. That has been one of their bigger issues this season. This is 2 really hot teams. K-State's won 4 straight games. Texas Tech has won 8 straight. But at home for Texas Tech, it feels like it's going to be too much for K-State to overcome. So they've been playing well, but that turnover problem, Texas Tech, one of the things they do is they're extremely efficient. They don't turn the ball over a lot. They don't miss a lot of shots. So they're not great at anything, but they're really efficient, which will allow them, I think Texas Tech can get a win against K-State and continue on their path of being one of the undefeated teams in the Big 12. And then your other big game would be Houston at TCU. TCU leads college basketball in fast break points. They lead college basketball in fast break points, 23.6. Houston is going to have to play really good defense and get back because TCU is going to be able to play a little bit of defense. They beat OU. They lost by 2 to Kansas. This is not a bad TCU team. But Houston is going to be pissed off. They're going to be trying to go into TCU. TCU could send the number 2 team their second loss if they're able to get out in fast breaks, if they're able to cause enough defense, get LJ Cryer to play as bad as he did on Tuesday, get him to play that poorly again, or Tuesday or Wednesday, earlier this week. If they were to play with him and get him to play that poorly, you could see TCU get another big win and Houston get another big loss and really shake up this Big 12, shake up college basketball with another win there for the Big 12. But a lot to watch for in Big 12 basketball on Saturday. A lot of good games that you should keep an eye on during the playoffs. Got to give your 2 TV setup. 2 TV setup is very important this time of year. I know we're down to 1 football game, but now we've got NBA action on. Get into that in a minute. Now we've got some college basketball action on. You got to have that on. You got to have the NBA on. You got to have everything going. There's some good UFC fights on Saturday too. So plenty. You got to get the multi-TV setup going. This is the time of year. It's very important with everything going on. Keep an eye on all the games. Keep an eye on all those Big 12 basketball as Texas continuing to try and compete in the Big 12 with a lot of people not believing in them. A lot of people not believing in Texas. Text line's open, 512-447-3776. Get to NBA talk here in just a second, but I want to go through and get to the text lines because we do try to get to everybody on the text line. Nate's trying to get me in trouble again. Vintage Scott says, good. Now we have a chance to get revenge on DeBoer at Alabama. I like that. I like that thought, Vintage Scott. I hadn't even thought of that. That, get a little repeat. We'll see if they make the college football playoff. We don't play them as set right now next season. I am glad that Oklahoma, I thought they were going to get it kind of past. Oklahoma doesn't have to play Nick Saban. That's annoying that we had to play him. We beat him, though. So I guess it's nice that Sark got to be one of the last guys to beat them. I think that's got to feel good. That's got to feel good. Norvell will suck next year when they play more than high school teams. Yeah, I think, look, Norvell's it's going to be a harder time when you don't have Jordan Travis. Like, that was the team this year. And the defense was good, but they were playing a lot of really bad teams. I think the ACC will be a little bit more up next season, hopefully, that they're not going to be a complete garbage conference. And, man, if they get out of that ACC, it'll help recruiting, but it could be a tough. Mark Norvell's a good coach. He's got that 8-year deal, though. You hope that does not breed contempt or breed not contempt, but breed comfort where he decides that he is not going to put the effort in those 16, 17, 18-hour days and get there. I don't think it will. I think he's going to have a good team again. But without a quarterback like Jordan Travis, I don't know if that team is an undefeated team. I don't think they are, because they weren't when he wasn't there. Because, you know, and we can say everybody was gone, but they got just throttled by Georgia. Just throttled. Chan says, imagine what Kalen DeBoer shall do with 5-star recruits now. Wow. Think Bama will continue to do fine. Yeah, the question is, can you continue to get 5-star recruits at that level? Because if you come out your first season and you drop 2 games, that's not terrible everywhere, but 2 games at Alabama is terrible. And when you're already not the best recruiter and you're following the greatest coach of all time, you can't even start at Alabama with 2 losses. And that's implementing culture. That's implementing everything he wants to bring in. How much can he make it, and how much of this is staying Nick Saban's way? Even though Saban is not the coach, do they still want to keep everything? Or do they, how much does Kalen DeBoer get to put his process in and his ability in? Now for those places like Lane Kiffin, who just wants to go in there and beat Alabama because of the way he feels he was treated. All those guys that wanted to beat Nick Saban, I feel like it's going to make him want to beat him even more. Hey, man, they're vulnerable. There's blood in the water. Let's go get them. So I think he'll do better with the 5-star athletes. The question is, how many of them can he keep? How many of them can he reach to get to play to that next level? And who he brings in as his other coaches. I mean, that's like, we're not talking about that. Texas is looking for a D-line coach. Well, I mean, who's he bringing in? Is he bringing in all his guys, or are they keeping their guys? Where does Tommy Rees go? Because now is Tommy Rees coaching Kalen DeBoer's system? Everything was kind of Nick Saban's way. How much do you change that? How much of these players were there to play? What does Jalen Milroe do? Jalen Milroe is not Michael Penix. He's not the type of guy that fits in there. Is he going to be able to change his way? Now, he did have, Michael Penix is more mobile in Indiana with Kalen DeBoer as well. So maybe you can coach him up that way. I think Kalen DeBoer is a really good coach, but yeah, there is a lot of questions to be answered. And complacency, yes, another one of those words that starts with the C that I was trying to think of. I appreciate you, Chan. Sticking up there for me. I appreciate you. My brain does, it's Friday. I run out of brain space on a Friday. I don't even know the right words for that. We've got about 40 minutes left, and then I can go and reset my brain and watch football all weekend. Will be a good weekend. I appreciate you. I'll watch a lot of NBA this weekend as well. Text line still open, 512-447-3776. Some big NBA games last night, though. The Mavericks did pull an upset of the Knicks with no Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic out. He's expected to be out through the weekend, I believe, possibly coming back Monday or Tuesday. But they do pull the upset, 128-124 over the Knicks, returning Jalen Brunson. Kyrie Irving wants to go show up. I think he always likes showing up against those New York teams and the big city teams. I think he likes showing off there. I think he likes showing off with Luka on the bench, what he's really capable of doing. He puts up 44 points, 10 assists, 4 rebounds for Kyrie Irving. Gets a huge win over the Knicks, who are undefeated so far after their trade for OG Anunoby. The Mavs getting a win, and those are big wins. When you're talking about, Luka Doncic going down, how many games can you win with Luka Doncic out? That is the question. And to get one there is big. They'll have another one coming up on Saturday against the Pelicans with Luka probably out as well, if they'll be able to do that. But Pelicans are another good team. So I don't know if they're going to be able to carry 2 of those, but we'll see if Kyrie can go out there and put up another big performance against the Pelicans. We've also seen the Spurs have a back-to-back. Wemby is scheduled to play tonight against the Hornets. I think it's the easier of the 2 games to win. They play tonight against the Hornets, the Bulls tomorrow. So I believe we'll see Wemby in this one. We've been told Wemby is not going to play back-to-backs with his ankle injury, with his minutes restriction, that they're trying to keep him as safe as possible his rookie season. So that they're going to be playing the Hornets tonight. They're actually 1.5-point favorites. LaMelo Ball is supposed to be returning from injury tonight, though, as well for the Hornets. But this is a matchup of 2 more bottom-dwelling teams. The Spurs were able to handle the Pistons easily. If they beat the Hornets, man, that's a win streak, guys. That's 2, man. That's a win streak. 2 games. It's happened. And then they got to play the Bulls the next night, probably without Wemby, so I don't know if the streak's going to go to 3. But they could win 2 in a row, guys. It could happen tonight against the Hornets. You got to go in there. Saturday also, we get Rockets versus Celtics. Brooks may return, but man, people are figuring the Celtics are pissed off after getting snubbed by the Bucks. By the way, just an awful night of basketball last night. That Knicks-Mavericks game was probably the best game, but the Blazers lost by 60, 62. Everyone was getting killed last night. Everyone. It was just all blowouts, including the Celtics getting blown out by the Bucks with a great moment where Giannis's brother, Giannis, checks into the game and the crowd's all cheering because the human victory cigar is coming out on the court. He comes in, immediately turns the ball over, comes back and tries to pick up a foul on the other end, try to pick up an offensive foul. It gets called, the guy scores, and then he gets called for a flopping technical right after. It was the most chaotic, worst intro to a game where he just kind of has to be like, no, I'm okay. It was it was hilarious to watch Giannis come into that game and immediately mess up and immediately be like, yeah, that's why you don't play. That's why you wouldn't be in the NBA if it wasn't for your brother. Just always thank him. You should have got up when he got called for that flopping and walked over and shook Giannis' hand and be like, thank you for letting me into the NBA. But that'll be Rockets and Celtics. I mean, this is Ime going to play against his old team. It's in Boston, though. Rockets don't travel as well as some other teams. Not a great road team. But Ime is going to be coming in. He's going to be fired up for the game. How much can he get everybody else fired up for the game? We did mention yesterday, too, that I thought the Rockets would be in place, maybe trying to make a trade for Marcus Smart. That looks like less and less likely because Marcus Smart suffered another injury and is now out, I believe, 6 weeks, which will take him past the trade deadline, meaning he can't pass a physical, meaning he most likely will not be traded at all. So it does not look like the Rockets will be adding Marcus Smart. Somebody I thought they could add. They may still try and do it over the offseason, but who knows? But that was somebody I thought. But that is a questionable game. 14.5-point favorites for the Celtics. I wouldn't have necessarily put it that big myself. Also announced today, the in-season tournament will be returning next season. Adam Silver, commissioner of the NBA, said that he is happy with how it turned out, that it was great results. They're working to find the best time of season to put it in, talking to the TV networks. Where do you guys want us to put it with all these ratings? Where do you want us to put it in the season? They maybe put it too early this year, so we'll see if that moves. And the in-season tweaks, please fix the courts. Those were ugly. Those were terrible. They made it hard to watch basketball. Fix the courts. There's some other small tweaks I put in there, too, about how you did the games where you had to put a game on at, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, something like that. I didn't like that either in the semifinals. But, a lot of this stuff can be figured out. But the in-season tournament will return. So it is not a one and done. The banner in the Lakers, and we'll see if there's a curse. The Lakers have been pretty bad after that tournament as well. Maybe there's going to be an in-season tournament curse, and no one's going to want to win it. That'd be fun. That'd be fun to add. All right. Text line's open. 512-447-3776. 512-447-3776 is the text line. If you guys got anything you want to add to it, or you have any playoff superstitions you like to use, we're asking you if you have any playoff superstitions and what are yours. See if you got one that's crazy. Put one in there for me. But we'll come back. We'll get to the text line, play some more sound from Hook 'em Up with Ian Robbie right here on the Sports Complex on the Horn 1019 AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Back on the Sports Complex here on the Horn on a 512 Friday. Playing you local music you can go check out around town this weekend. Go support the local scene. This is Carrie Hudson and Good Company. Carrie always kills it. It is an awesome band, awesome time. They're playing Saturday at Saxon Pub. You can go check them out, but Carrie's super talented. The band is awesome. Go check out Carrie Hudson and Good Company Saturday at the Saxon Pub. Let's get back to the text line. 512-447-3776. 512-447-3776 is the text line. Nate still trying to get me fired. He's still trying. Can't say anything he says on the text line. Everything he says will get me fired. That's Nate for you. That's what he does. Text says, listening online as I'm driving back to Austin, can you take a minute and give us your thoughts on Texas basketball team? Are they going to be okay this year? I've given this a few times this week as people are getting more and more freaked out about it. Anything can happen in college basketball. I think the presumed death of Texas basketball is way too early. There's a lot of people who just don't like Rodney Terry because he's not their guy. And for whatever reason that is, which I don't know, there's a lot of people who do not believe in him and don't like him and didn't want him to be the coach and wanted to go get the biggest name and get the biggest guy, and he would get Texas was supposed to have Ron Holland. That would have helped them out a lot this year to add another dynamic freshman. But you don't. Dylan Dessou, if he continues to get better and better and healthier, that's a big piece. If Shedrick and Dessou get healthy, then that is a dynamic front court for you that's going to be able to do a lot for you. If those guys can get healthy, play full minutes, play deep into tournament play where you're playing closer games back to back, that'll be a question to see what they can do and stay healthy. But that is a big piece. Max Abmas, I think, will continue to get better at realizing which shots to take. They're already a pretty effective team, a pretty good high field goal percentage team, which is not really Max Abmas' style. He's not a bad shooter or anything, but he just, he takes a lot of shots. I think he's getting better at selecting the shots he wants to take. If he continues to grow in that will help this Texas team. And then he's going to be able to draw defenses, find guys, raise his assist rate. All of that will continue to help this Texas team. Dylan Mitchell's growth. I think there's a lot of progress and a lot of hope for this Texas team that you can go looking forward. They need to go handle business at West Virginia, though. That is the next test. They're playing West Virginia on Saturday, and this is not a really good West Virginia team. One of their better players should be out for the game. So Texas needs to go handle business at West Virginia and show people that they're not every game is going to be like the Cincinnati game. And maybe Cincinnati goes and plays well against Baylor and some people rank them higher. Texas Tech is a good team. And the fact that I know we lost at home and you're not supposed to lose at home, but the thought that since they lost to Tech, they lost to UConn who's returning. I know they lost to Marquette at Marquette, and you don't want to lose that game to Shaka Smart. I get there's some games that they lost that we'd really want to have back. But I think the presumed death of Texas basketball, like so many people seem to be predicting that they're not even going to make the tournament, I do not believe in that. Watching this team, I know what they've done the last few years. I know how they progress and get better throughout the season. I know who Rodney Terry is as a coach. And, as much as nobody will give him credit for last year turning this team from a team that was a probable 7 or 8 seed in the tournament to winning the Big 12, which no one had predicted, to getting to the Elite 8, which no one had predicted. People at the beginning of the season were hoping that Texas was a Final Four team. But if they watched them non-conference, they didn't believe they were. And they got better and better as the season went on. I think that'll happen again this year. So as much as people want to not believe in Rodney Terry, I don't know why, but people don't like him. I think there's some good hope for this Texas team going forward. I hope that answered it. WPI Parts Guy says a Spurs streak. Yes, 2 games. I don't think 3 is going to happen. But they can get 2, man. They can get 2. And that's what we'll care about this season. You misspoke on this. You said nobody cares about basketball until the playoffs or the 64 brackets. No, you don't care. A lot of people do care, though. Arenas are still getting packed, and people are still going out, and people watching. The TV ratings are up, and I love basketball. I'll talk about them all year long. So I know you don't. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you texting in. We'll still talk football all the time because I love football too. But to say nobody when you don't, it's implying that you run the world. And you don't run the world. As far as I know, maybe you do. Maybe my listeners do run the world, and I'm just an ant farm. Who knows? Texter says it's bad luck to be superstitious. I like that. Solid. Well done. Chan says go Green Bay and Texas, and of course Texas men's basketball, women's basketball this weekend. Chan hating against the Cowboys, man. Hating against the Cowboys. I'm rooting for the Cowboys. You got to understand, this is the deal, and I always say this. The party is better when the Cowboys win. It's always a better party, unless they're playing the Texans, and then I'm going to root for my team. But the party's better, and I'm a fan of the party being better. That's what I go with. So I always want to do that because then Cowboys fans will buy, because Cowboys fans live on the hopium. They live on it. And, if they beat Packers by 20, guess who's buying shots for the bar? Cowboys fans. Guess who's ready to buy a ticket to the playoff, buy a ticket to the Super Bowl? Cowboys fans. They live on the hopium, and I love it about them. It's so much fun to be around happy Cowboys fans, so I always root for them. I always want the Cowboys to do well. But Chan, my man Chan, not feeling it. Not feeling of it. Chan also asked, why is Chris Johnson not playing? Was highly touted coming in. Yes, he was. I think that, he just wasn't playing at the level he needed to. And Rodney Terry runs a tighter rotation, which a lot of guys do. He may come in later in the year. There's probably going to be injuries or time where he needs to play. So we could see him later, but I don't think in the times he played, he wasn't playing defense at the level he needed to stay on the court. If you're not great enough offensively and you're not able to put up, just mad points and be able to nail threes constantly and create space for yourself, then you need to play defense at a really high level. And I just don't know if he was able to do that this season. Let's play some sound from Hook 'em Up with Ian Rob B. It's a replay. We'll get back to the text line 512-447-3776. But here's some sound from this morning talking about the Cowboys in the playoffs. I know, Chan, you're rooting against them, but I'm rooting for the Cowboys. Here's Rob Babers and Aaron Hogan talking about the Cowboys this morning.
All right, let's talk about the Cowboys and their matchup versus the Packers. There's one particular concept that I think the Cowboys are going to have a lot of success with versus the Packers. As a matter of fact, it may be such an advantage for the Cowboys. They may end up winning the game just off of this vulnerability on the Packers defense. And actually, I was watching NFL Live, and I saw them talking about this stat. It's mind-blowing. So Green Bay's defense is really bad at defending the middle of the field in between the numbers. Dak loves to throw to the middle of the field. That's one of his favorite spots to throw. As a matter of fact, CeeDee Lamb and him love to throw option routes. They throw a lot of slant routes. Green Bay allows the worst, if you go look at it, Green Bay allowing the worst EPA per play on the throws to the middle of the field, which is between the numbers. They're the worst. Look at the QBR. They allow the highest or the worst QBR in the league to throw to the middle of the field. Green Bay allows the worst yards per attempt on slant routes, the worst EPA per play and QBR, I guess I pointed out, on slant routes as well, but also to the middle of the field. And they have allowed the highest passer rating and yards per attempt in the NFL on slants. If you're the Cowboys, you got to throw a lot of slant routes. A lot of slant routes, a lot of inside breaking routes to the middle of the field. The Packers have been really bad at it all season long. Mina Kimes points out that Green Bay versus the slant routes allowed 9.2 yards per attempt and a 143 passer rating, 0.77 EPA per play on slant routes in the second half of the season. And you would think, they're getting better toward the second half of the season. And maybe they did improve. Maybe it was worse in the first half of the season because they're allowing almost a first down on yards per attempt defending slant routes, period. 9.2. And it's one of the natural tendencies of the Cowboys in the Dak Prescott, the new revamped Texas Coast offense. They throw a lot of old school slant routes and a lot of old school option routes. You're going to see a ton of them, even more so. They'll probably increase that rate versus the Packers. So that's something to watch. Throw that out there, too. Remember also last season, Tony Pollard had a great game versus the Packers. He had 22 rushes, 115 yards, 5.2 yards per attempt. He hasn't been great this season, but he is trending the last 3 or 4 weeks. He's getting better. He's looking healthier. We talked about this. He's looking like more and more like his old explosive self. He's got 16 forced missed tackles in the last 3 weeks, which is over that time span is tied for the second most in the NFL. If he can give you a performance similar to what he did last year versus the Packers, that would be huge because you're going to need it. Just in case, Dak's off or the passing game isn't off, I don't expect that to be the case. And the Cowboys playing at home are the best team in the NFL at home. Nobody plays their best brand of football, a version of football at home more so than the Cowboys. They're elite at home. So I don't anticipate anything forcing the offense to look clunky. But I do expect them to be balanced. I expect Tony Pollard, actually, who's been trending, to give them a lot of production in the run game, too. The Packers have been hunting Dak Prescott, though, for years. He's only 1-4 versus the Green Bay Packers. Dak didn't have a lot of wins versus Green Bay. The Cowboys, if you go look at them overall this season, that defense against this Packers offense is going to be interesting because Jordan Love has looked like a different quarterback, as we talked about the second half of the season since week 11. They don't turn the football over, and the Cowboys are very opportunistic. The Cowboys actually force a lot of turnovers. That is one of their character traits as a defense. They're opportunistic, taking away the football. Right now, Jordan Love has the most starts with multiple pass touchdowns and 0 interceptions in the NFL. He's a young quarterback, first-year starter that takes care of the football. That'll end up being a big factor in this matchup. If you can force Jordan Love to look like a first-year starter, which he has not looked like in the last 8 weeks, in the last 8 games or so, if any defense can make him look like that, it'd be the Cowboys. They're really opportunistic, and they lead the NFL in pressure rate. And Jordan Love has been actually great against pressure. He's second in the NFL in QBR versus pressure, behind one Dak Prescott with a 75 QBR. But Cowboys pressure is a different kind of pressure, especially with a guy like Micah Parsons, who he's been great, but he hadn't gotten a holding call in the last 11 weeks. But I don't know if Jordan Love has seen this kind of pressure, but they have been winning some games against really good teams, and he's been playing some of the best football of any quarterback in the league. He's been playing like a top 10 quarterback in the last 8 games. That is there's no joke. He's got 20 touchdowns, 1 interception in the last 8 games, 112 passer rating. He's legit. It looks like it, but this Cowboys defense, I think they'll have some exotic looks for a young Jordan Love, especially when it comes to their pressure packages.
Good stuff right there. Cowboys and Packers is the middle of the afternoon game on Sunday as part of Wild Card Weekend. And Rod, it's a good thing there's a roof on AT&T Stadium in Arlington. It's an indoor stadium, of course, because look at this right. Chiefs-Dolphins game on Saturday night could be among the coldest NFL games ever, according to a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, Tom Kynes. He says it's going to be brutal. Temperature-wise, I don't think it gets much worse than they're going to deal with. Temperatures, if you take the wind chill, between minus 20 and minus 30 degrees.
It's going to feel like that's I can't, no. Why would you? People are going to be at that game?
I guess, standing there.
People are going to go to that game. I don't know, man. I don't know if I could go. I don't know. Even if I'm a diehard fan, I'm like, nah, I'm not going to the game. Sorry.
Because Sunday afternoon,
risk frostbite going to that game. No.
Sunday afternoon in Dallas is going to be about 20 degrees, 25 degrees and windy. But Saturday night, the wind chill could mean temperatures feel like they're between minus 20 and minus 30 degrees. A low temperature, the air temperature is expected to be minus 8.
And you gonna sit out there in them stands for like 3 hours? 3-something hours in that game? I guess the game will go by fast, so I expect them to run the ball a lot. Maybe I'll be wrong about that, though. And then that's the conditions of the snow. You know how that is with your footing as a player, and that's going to be a wild game to watch. Yeah. Some of y'all can't watch. It's going to be wild. Some of y'all can't watch it at all. It'll be on Peacock.
In terms of NFL records, the Ice Bowl 1967 championship game, Packers-Cowboys at Lambeau Field, still ranks as the coldest game with a temperature of minus 13 and a wind chill of minus 48. But Saturday night's game will rival that with an air temperature of minus 8 and wind chills that are minus 20 to minus 25.
It'll be the coldest game that the Dolphins have ever played in and the coldest game at Arrowhead Stadium ever. That's crazy.
No thanks. And you said it. I mean, the players will have all time. They put that silicone on.
They got lots of technology to help them.
It's the damn fans that will. You got to stand in there.
Like, there's no jacket that can help you stay warm for that long out in those kind of conditions. Right? You're going, at one point, I guess you can just wear multiple layers. You just layer up like 5, 6 to 7 layers.
You can call me whatever you want, bad fan. You couldn't pay me to go to that game.
No. No, I'm not doing that. No. I'm not risk. No, because I just don't understand how they're going to do it, how the fans go. I guess you can go for a while, then leave. They'll probably have heaters like up in certain areas. They'll have heating areas up there in the stadium, I'm sure.
Here would be my criteria. If it was my favorite team.
No.
And being there was the only way to see the game.
No.
I would
No.
maybe
I'll
go.
keep up with it on Twitter. Updates. Somebody will be live tweeting the whole
Well, look,
thing. No, I'm good.
Ty Henderson, would you
No.
go? Would you go to this game where it's minus 8 degrees and wind chills at minus 25?
Hell no.
Thank
Hell
you. Okay, like so, when
No.
Ty says hell no,
Exactly. That dude's ride or die.
Wait,
Dude,
so
you got branded
is this
and
my
everything.
team or is it just,
Yeah,
just
it's
a
your
Chiefs
team.
yeah,
game?
it's a Cowboys game.
It's
It's
your
a Cowboys game.
It's the Longhorns, your
Super
team.
Bowl.
I would
Whatever.
probably go to it if it was a Longhorns game, not for the Cowboys though.
I ain't
If it was a
going.
national championship for the Longhorns, I'd 100% be there, but not just a playoff game for the Cowboys.
I would not. I would not.
I would
love,
add the
I love my
caveat-
Longhorns, but I'm like, no.
I would add the caveat that if it was the only way to see the game,
Unless I was playing in the game, it's the only way I would be.
that means you were getting paid to be
Get
there.
paid to be there. Only way I'm going there, guys. I love my Longhorns, but nope, we good. We
Nope.
good on that one.
Nope,
That's crazy. Yeah, you gonna risk frostbite? No, I'm not doing that.
that's
I
funny.
can't do it. I'll
All
never
right.
be the same after sitting out in the cold for 3
4
hours.
hours?
4 hours like that? Oh man, no way. No way. And you can't even take your hands out to do stuff. Like
Can't even
you can
drink a
eat,
beer.
Yeah, you can't drink a
Can't eat
beer.
a hot dog.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? You just sit there wrapped up,
Frigid.
only your eyes showing. No, I can't. No, I'm not gonna enjoy that. That's no, I'm not gonna enjoy that experience.
By the end of the game, you look like Jack Nicholson in The Shining
yeah,
out there in the maze.
Yeah, I mean, guys,
No
don't
thanks.
know.
I love
No, I'm
football,
good.
but not that much.
I love my
We'll
team,
come
not
back.
that
We'll
much.
take your thoughts on that. Would you be at that game? That's going to be Saturday night. That's the night game. Houston, of course, middle of the afternoon Saturday. Cowboys, middle of the afternoon Sunday, both indoors. Buffalo won't be won't be balmy, that's for sure, when they play Pittsburgh at noon on Sunday. Of course, the night game will be indoors as well on Sunday. That is the Lions and the Rams from Motown.
Good stuff there from Uncle Up with Ian Rob B. And no, I would not go out there either. I've done a cold game, and it wasn't that cold, and it was miserable. And I think I did one that was like in the 20s, and it was awful. So 0, no. I'm out. I'm out at 0. I was 20, and I was younger, and I did that. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll come back, wrap things up. Text line's still open if you want to hit us for one more before we head out for the weekend. 512-447-3776. Right back to wrap it up here on the Sports Complex and the Horn 1019, AM 1260, the Horn app, and at hornfm.com. All right, we got to wrap things up here as we get out of here. Freak nasty ATX. Patrick, I spent 10 years in the Army, been in 138 to -7 for the Longhorns and Cowboys. I'm there. You are a better man than me, Freak nasty, for a number of reasons. I will tell you that. And not going to those games. Even if it's not on TV, make it harder. But I don't like being in crowds anyway. All right. I hope everybody has a great weekend. Enjoy yourself. Be safe, especially on Sunday night, Monday morning when the freeze comes in. Take care of yourselves. But until we see you back on Monday to break down the games, we'll be here on MLK Day. Happy MLK Day, by the way. We'll be here. Till then, be kind, be safe, keep your underwear clean. We'll see you right back here on Monday to break it all down on the Sports Complex.